Oh, the Acolyte. I almost wanted to stay away from this one. Nah, this needs addressing so badly. Let's go.
A long, long time ago.
So yeah, I've been kind of staying away from talking about media lately. Several reasons for that. One big one was I had all that big Marvel Legends collection to do, and I just finished the videos up and then put them up, and then now I'm free to do a whole lot more. There was that, and I mean, you know, that was part of the reason for the channel, was me rebuilding my Marvel Legends collection. Another one is, let's just face it, media has just been, God, I don't even want to call it mediocre. It's just been shit. I mean, it's just pretty awful. The boys seem to lost a step. But then this came around, and wow.
All my worst nightmares at once.
Up front, I'm just going to say, this is one of the worst pieces of media I've ever seen. I don't mean worst Star Wars. I mean media, period.
Happened to the Star Wars that I used to know.
It's incredibly bad. And it's amazing how the defenders try to say this is good.
What do you have to do to not be labeled a shill if you have a YouTube channel? Do you have to upload like a video a day ranting and raving about what you don't like? Do you have to use buzzwords like woke, shit like that? Is that the only way to not be labeled a quote-unquote shill? I mean, fuck. I have a career. I have a family. It's nice being normal.
We gotta get into a whole lot of stuff. So let's start at the beginning, because I had a bad feeling about this from the get-go.
I got a bad feeling about this.
You see what I did there? Of course, Kathleen Kennedy came out of the gate saying, the sexist males won't let women da-da-da-da-da, and we knew what this was. This was the same crap they pulled during Rise of Skywalker and Last Jedi. Although, during that whole time, they never addressed the fact Rogue One was very widely well received by Star Wars fans, and also had a female lead.
Very interesting, but not too nostalgic.
They never tried to address that. Weird, huh? I mean, it's almost like they made it up.
Is totally made up. Pure fiction.
But nah, they wouldn't do that, right? But yeah, as soon as I saw that, I went, wait a minute. This isn't looking good. We start getting into the show, and of course people start reacting, and it's not good.
Oh, we're on TV.
Not good at all. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody that likes this show. Most of the people that do kind of fall into this category.
And you start seeing the internet, how, like, you know, the racist people are coming out and how they feel about Star Wars.
Or,
oh, I hate it because the writing's bad. No, you hate it because there's a lesbian.
I mean, even I got a little bit of that. I didn't even talk about lesbian. I was talking about May flipping her allegiance on a dime. Yeah.
Do you want to start doing grift content so that we make more money?
No.
We could make more money. We just have to be racist.
You know, acting like children in the lead up to this show, just because, again, they seem to have an issue with anything that's not revolving around a straight white male lead.
Many times. And another thing that starts popping up is, hey, wait, all these guys say it's just fine, it's fine.
I think I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It clawed its way back up to a 7 from a 6 for me.
I'd give it like a 7 out of 10.
Honestly, like, this show has been, I think, my favorite Star Wars live action streaming show so far.
I love the show. No one's paying me to say that.
Then you get a moment like this.
Well, I'm gonna have to call bullshit on that. Because here are the 4 individuals you just saw opening this section of the video. At Lucasfilm, hanging out with Dave Filoni and Leslie Headland. And surprise, surprise, gift baskets were received.
Just a couple of things for everyone, so please feel free to grab one. We also have the first ever lightsabers from the Acolyte.
I mean, I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, those lightsabers by themselves go for about $250. Nah, nobody's paying you to say anything, right? Yeah. So yeah, with all that in mind, you then get that cringy video from Amanda Stepford, and oh, it's incredibly bad. You have to have subtitles to know what she's saying, and then even then it's like, what? What the hell are you talking about? Who's oppressing you?
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
She says she's getting racist messages, but we don't see any. At least Moses Ingram produced something. I mean, some people will argue on the ones that she produced, but she had something. She showed something. Not hearing anything here. And honestly, my criticisms of her is that she looks like a perpetual load screen. I mean, let's face it, she's not emoting. For example, this is where she kills Soul. I'm sorry, spoilers.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Supposed to be her father figure, and, you know, this is where she turns to the dark side. Let's contrast this with Hayden Christensen, who... Remember when we used to call him Mannequin Skywalker? Nah, you probably don't, but he got called that. Just saying, guys. She's not emoting. And I get playing something stern and disciplined, but we'll get into that in just a second. But the internet started getting really nasty on this one. It's it's Acolyte. I mean, come on. It's pretty bad.
You're despicable.
That's racist. That's homophobic. That's black. That's racist.
No, you hate it because there's a lesbian.
The racist people are coming out and how they feel about Star Wars.
And then you get the people who are coming back like, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. It's like, but you're telling that to people who love Star Wars. And what was weird was Red Letter Media said that, and I'm like going, didn't you guys like go all over Picard for 3 seasons? I mean, they did stop at Discovery, but yeah, they were like really dogging up Picard for a while there. And of course, Red Letter Media made their name by dogging on the prequels. Just saying. Okay, I enjoyed the hell out of those videos, and I love them still, but it was all dogging on the prequels. So, it's your bread and butter. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Okay, but you did. It's a weird argument, and I don't understand it. But then, you got a few people who are trying to overstep that and say there's other agendas involved.
None of this should be taken as an endorsement of anything Hedlund might have done while with Weinstein. I just find it kind of funny how we're exclusively holding her accountable when all of Hollywood knew about Harvey Weinstein.
Now, I gotta admit, I didn't listen very closely to the Leslie Hedlund was Harvey Weinstein's assistant until one fateful day. We had that bath. And then I made a video on it if you won't go back on the channel. And yeah, that didn't sit well with me. Not at all. I just felt that was something weird.
We're not going to be canoodling. What?
And like I said, it's the exact thing that Harvey Weinstein was accused of. But then even more than that, he says, again, let me play it.
I just find it kind of funny how we're exclusively holding her accountable when all of Hollywood knew about Harvey Weinstein.
So I don't understand how only holding Leslie Hedlund accountable when it was Harvey Weinstein who's been blackballed throughout Hollywood. The man has lost his career. Leslie hasn't. Just saying.
She's standing right there, isn't she?
Maybe that's the problem. Especially after you shoot your boss's exact accusation on TV as the motivation for a character to go to the dark side. But yeah, this goes even further, and he loves a certain phrase for anybody who doesn't like what he likes.
What? Good. Cool. At least that's better than a ton of grifters who don't hide their shameless grifting on every news story. A lot of grifters, Anita doesn't waste your time. Post your average right-wing grift video. This also means right-wing grifters can which is frankly the same thing a lot of right-wing grifters do with their arguments.
I mean, the rule in media is say it 3 times to get your point. Actually, I argue maybe twice. Usually once is enough, but you get my point here. Over and over and over again with the same accusation. Grifters, I suppose, would have to mean something along the lines of, you're doing this for views? Just saying all that crap for views. Psst. Low key, guys. I'm saying all this stuff for views, but don't tell anyone. Yeah, okay. Like anybody puts anything up on YouTube, do not be viewed. I mean, you can argue me. Because, you know, I got some low numbers lately. But, yeah, everything gets put up to be viewed, and we want to have views. And, yeah, we would like it if it gets a whole hell of a ton of views. Maybe he's talking about super chats, because, you know, maybe he's above such things.
I'm not even going to bother figuring that one out. Oh, thank you for the super chat, David Deister.
I mean, I kind of wonder if they know what the word grifter means. Because, as you can see, it's about swindling people. So how are these right-wing guys swindling people?
Want to start doing grift content so that we make more money?
Arguments that they have a very specific box as to what they deem acceptable, and if it falls outside that box, it is seen as bad.
Then they're not grifting!
And believe me, I've tried. I've seen about a dozen videos of where they say, oh, they're grifting. And it's like, where is the grifting? Where is the swindling going on? Is it super chats, maybe? Is it being paid by YouTube for more views? I don't understand the grift unless they're using the word incorrectly. Which would make sense because it's kind of a catchword anymore anyway. And, of course, it's always attached to one side of the political aisle. Which gets me into... I fucking hate politics. I hate them with a passion. But you notice, if you don't like this show, they're going to point out some politics on you. Like they did to me here. Even though I'm really apolitical. But still, you get assigned that. Because... maybe because they can't think past the duality of two-party system. I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest. Now, I will say this, there are people who like the show who get it from the other side, but I don't like this show, so guess which one I get. And I think that's funny, because it's a hollow argument. So, there is that as well.
In fact, if they ramble on enough, you might even forget what the thesis of their argument was. Until you pause the video and think about what they actually said and realize, oh, it's
That's
all
funny.
nonsense, actually.
That is perfect. Perfect. Just perfect.
Which part of this video is nonsense?
I'm starting to love this video. It's so wonderful.
Fascinating that you would say that. Fascinating.
Well, the irony really starts to crank up.
I wish.
And I mean, this is all built off of what Kathleen Kennedy said, which turned it into a political quagmire, but also pissed off loyal fans.
But to have Kathleen Kennedy say to long-standing fans of the franchise for over 40 years that they are toxic males who are afraid of strong female leads, that is absolutely disgusting.
And some fans are being turned away in droves.
Having no Star Wars is better than having Star Wars. That is a guarantee. You know what? I'd rather starve than go through really violent food poisoning.
What does all this have to do with the Acolyte? This is everything being talked about around the Acolyte. Because, you know, you're not being honest. But also, there's another aspect you have to talk about. It's getting review bombed. Oh boy. How do you talk about that? Here's the thing is, it is getting review bombed. Because it sucks.
It stinks.
Let's take a look at something else. Brought this up to some guy that was claiming it got review bombed. And I brought up the point that, hey, you got X-Men 97. You had a black, gay showrunner who also had a little moment of pronounism. And had a lot of criticism going in. People were really upset that Morph was no longer established as a male. And you were ready for the vitriol. And then X-Men 97 premiered. And it's weird. The audience went, oh, this is cool. And that score shot up. Way up. It almost matches the critic score. Because X-Men 97 was freaking awesome. They're great. And of course, the person I pointed this out to, like, I couldn't follow X-Men 97. Like, really, it wasn't that hard to follow. If you can't follow the plot of X-Men 97, yeah, that's a you problem.
You are made of stupid.
It's a pretty simple plot. A good plot, but a pretty simple one. So what does all this mean? I mean, I do have to say it is human nature to talk about the things you don't like versus the things you like. I mean, that's why this video is being created. At the same time, I need to talk about the show. Because it's bad. It is just so bad. Now, I'm not going to completely break down every little thing in the Acolyte, but I am going to hit up on some things. Before I do, I want to talk about some things I like to call... It's a trap! Now, fans hate women in the preemptive strike. That automatically produced a trap for us.
A lot of problems AI could solve, but instead they're like, let's replace women.
Because, see, what happens is, Disney pretty well publicly said they're doing their diversity inclusion thing in all their stuff. And in doing so, it opens the door for a criticism that sometimes gets overlooked as being a criticism. Because it sounds like people are going off about diversity. No. They're going off about diversity for diversity's sake. Maybe some of them haven't got the range to be able to talk about this in a sensitive way. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but there have been times, yeah, it comes across as bordering upon I hate anybody of color.
That's gay? That's homophobic. That's black. That's racist.
But there are some people who have caught on, hey, I got to pull that back. That sounds like a damn racist. It doesn't mean you can't talk about it. You just got to talk about it in saying, the woke politics of DIE hires has ruined everything. That sounds like you're saying, gee, races are ruining everything. And it's not. Not at all. The other one, first episode, I thought, this is a trap. This is a trap, man. It's so obviously a trap. They're doing this to fucking troll you. It's a trap! OSHA goes outside, there's fire in space. It's fucking Star Wars, people. It's fucking Star Wars. Fire's all over the place in space in Star Wars. It's, yeah. This is a little more blatant. You know, some of it is done for excitement factor, and we just kind of go, yeah, okay. You know, ships blow up, okay. But, you know, it's Star Wars, man. So, and they were trying to bait you with that. And they got you. I mean, some people got on that one really bad. Tough one. It's a trap! Another trap. The Wikipedia death threats. I mean, apparently this got turned into somebody getting fired. Which is sad, but yeah. I mean, it's a mess. We'll just say it. Since the Wikipedia thing had to do with Star Wars Theory, I'm going to bring this up. Star Wars Theory and the Mary Sue. This. So if you didn't know, Mary Sue, is she a reporter? Is she a columnist? I'm not sure. But anyway, She interviewed Leslie Headland. Star Wars Theory did a reaction. The person in question went on a tirade about it. And went to the point of insulting Star Wars Theory himself for no reason. And then admitted she never watched the video. She doesn't know what he said. He didn't say anything about her. That was the funny part. He actually addressed it as what was said in the interview, which is perfectly viable. But that was a weird moment. Because you're supposed to be a professional journalist. I mean, even if you're a columnist, you're a journalist. And you're supposed to check things before you go off on a tirade. Oops. So, another.
It's a trap!
Kiadi Mundi. Alright. They changed his age and birth date. They could. They knew they could. They said this was no longer part of the, quote, canon.
It was a cannon!
It was definitely a cannon.
We are now able to do this. We're going to do it because there's nothing else in the, quote, canon that contradicts this. Even though a lot of people do kind of want them to hold on to Legends canon somewhat. It was done to troll and to raise a bunch of shit from the fan base. I think it was a mistake, honestly. I think they knew this was the reaction they were going to get. But I think they also knew they could just point and say, look at these crazy nerds. Look at them acting all weird about a birthday. It even got stated like that. But you know, in the larger scheme of things, how can you expect a show that doesn't respect its own continuity to respect the overall continuity of Star Wars? Let's take a few examples. From the end of episode 2 to the beginning of episode 4, almost everybody's motivation flip-flops. Keep in mind there was a flashback between, so there was really no character point. Osha wants to get May at the end of episode 2, but then she's like, nah, never mind, it's not my problem. Soul in the meeting in episode 4 doesn't act like getting to Kanaka is a big deal like it was a big deal in episode 2. Also add in that Jackie and Osha went from awkward introduction to acting as if, you know, they're good buddies and maybe even more, as hinted by the stars, with barely any interaction or any screen time together. And the worst part about that one is, that actually could have been the cooler storyline. You got somebody who's in an organization that says no attachments, and you got someone else who wants to be attached, and they sit there and it's like it explores, you know, because let's face it, the Jedi aren't really 100% attached. I mean, what did Obi-Wan say to Anakin in The Revenge of the Sith?
You are my brother, Anakin!
I mean, again, it's a heavy thing to explore and would have been really cool. Yeah, shame it wasn't. Okay. Whatever. You could have done that. It would have been a better TV show. So, one of the big ones, and this is a spoiler. The whole freaking... Okay, one of the big ones. It is said that if we're to become public that a former Jedi killed one of our own, the political enemies would use it against us. So when you have a scapegoat of this monster is killing people, killing Jedi, instead of going with that, blame everything on a former Jedi. Now I know the argument's going to be, oh, she's hiding her part. And it's like, when you really sit and think about it, how much of her part could come out? It's not real, the motivation is not clear. It's obvious going the other way is the better option. But instead decides to tie things up. Oh, because she's corrupt and okay, fine, but I need to see that on screen. I need to know that. She's willing to destroy them. She's willing to put... I need to know that from her screen presence that she's willing to put her own well-being above the orders. And possibly put the order in a very compromised position. See, again, it actually turns out bad for her either way. I mean, the easiest way is to just go ahead and tell the lie of, which isn't a lie, there's a monster killing Jedi. There we go. I mean, it's just odd to me how people don't understand this flipping of motivations is ruining the story. People are doing things because the plot wants them to, not because they need to. Or there's actually a motivation for them to.
It's a trap!
Next is the gayest Star Wars.
Probably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin, and or outward.
I think it's canon that R2-D2 is a lesbian.
Remember that interview with Leslie Headland and Amandla? Now, the part of that really gets brought up is like, you know, she says 3PO's gay and R2-D2 is a lesbian. It wouldn't have been that bad if she wasn't copying a stand-up routine.
Gotta be gay. Like, C-3PO's the gayest of all of them. And no one mentions that R2 is a lesbian.
It's a stand-up routine. She can't even come up with her own joke.
Thanks, Captain Gaydar.
And the other...
It's a trap!
...is Jedi Master nepotism. Leslie Headland hired her wife to be one of the Jedi Masters.
Will be queen!
Now, her part is kind of small. But it is set up to be a bigger part next season if it goes that far. Well, what does that mean? That means her wife is in line for a big part in Star Wars. Think about it. Yeah. And before I go any further, a lot has been said about Osha's name and May's name, and let's just point out, it's from a soap. And I bet if you did some research, it's probably Leslie Headland's favorite soap. Yeah. Alright, let's talk about some specifics about the Acolyte. So now we get into the Acolyte itself. And the show starts out, we have a little bit of unarmed combat. A lot of people criticize this movie. Me, I wasn't so critical of it. I mean, partially because I do know armed combat comes from unarmed combat. In fact, there's many moves in some martial arts of swordsmanship that exactly mimic wrist locks. Same motion, just altered slightly. Am I a freaking martial arts expert? No. Not at all. But I knew though that much, so when I saw it I was like, yeah, the Jedi probably would have some kind of at least hand-to-hand combat training. That kind of looks a little like Kung Fu or something. So, the plot plods along, and I don't want to get in every detail, but my ears did perk up when I saw Torben take his own life. And I really went, why? That's pretty severe. What is he feeling guilty about? That made me think, oh boy, this might get interesting. Because I thought the first two episodes just plodded along with a lot of boring exposition and really didn't go anywhere. I thought they were like, oh yeah, Osha's innocent. Way too quickly. But then we had episode 3, which gave us the most cringe moment in Star Wars ever.
The power of one. No. 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 Power of 2.
No, God! No! God, please, no! No!
The power of
And that's where a lot of tides turned. I mean, that was so bad. That one moment is so bad. The whole episode is completely trash. Rocks burning. You don't really know what's going on. The witches just die. It's weird. It's weird and unusual, and what the hell is going on around here? And not weird in an intriguing sense, weird in a this should not be happening sense. And honestly, I think this episode could have been broken up throughout the season and it would have played a lot better. Episode 4, nothing, just walking. Episode 5, the least bad episode. That's the best way to call it. Because a lot of people are like, oh God, oh God. Well, okay. First off, Chimere being the stranger. That's his name, the stranger. I mean, really, that was kind of a shit reveal because he was the only suspect. Most people had guessed it. The only other suspect was maybe one of the mothers from the previous episode. Or the flashback episode. And in a way, it's kind of a cut and paste from Yoda. I mean, it's just, act a little goopy and clumsy. And ends up being the master. And it's a bad copy and paste from Yoda. I mean, it's not a good one. I mean, still, it was obvious from the get-go the guy had some skill. But, it just didn't land very well. I'll just say that. Now, when you start looking at the fight, first off, parts of it are kind of obscured. And then you have this little scene where he pulls 2 Jedi in and skewers them and lops their heads off. Everybody's like, oh God, that's so intense. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Are Jedi now the Stormtroopers? Because those are 2 Jedi Knights. And while I'm not having an issue with someone taking a Sith taking them down, I'm sitting here going, should it have been that easy? It did seem to go pretty easy for him. I mean, it would seem to me that Jedi would have defenses against their own stuff. Granted, they don't think they're Sith around, but they got to be running into Force users. I didn't even talk about renegade Force users. You mean to tell me they have no defenses against the Force? That seems weird. Because, doesn't that seem a little odd? I mean, I would think Jedi combat would be a little tougher. But no, apparently it's not. Apparently Jedi fall like flies. Which brings me to my next thing. Jackie. This is a big issue in the series. Okay, she dies. Spoiler alert. But first and foremost, there is this implied light between them in episode 4. And the makers of the show were quick to point this out and to confirm it. Okay. That's fine. So then, also in that same episode, it shows her practicing with a wooden stick. So she's not even good enough to practice with a lightsaber. Yet after getting rid of all these Jedi Knights, she pretty much is the one that stands up to him. She shouldn't have done so well. She's a Padawan. Unless there was something that said, oh, your skill is beyond any we've seen in the Jedi Order before, or something. I mean, something to clarify that she's a lot better at swordplay than most people, which there wasn't. Then she should have not lasted 2 seconds. And then, of course, Yord dies, which would be shocking, except both of these characters had very little development. They were barely on screen, only had a few interactions with Osha. There was nothing put in there. Yord got shit on a lot, and Jackie was the one doing the shitting. That's your characters. The most superficial characters that we have. I mean, of course they're going to die. They're nothing burgers. And then Soul gets into it, and then, there's a real fight. But, of course, when Chimera throws his saber and cuts the trees down, the trees fall the wrong way. Didn't even get the trees falling correctly, right?
You know what? You just made the blooper reel. Good job, Andrew.
You have May flipping on a dime through these episodes. One time she wants to surrender to the Jedi, then she doesn't, and then she decides she's going to infiltrate the Jedi, which she does not really do. But it also brings in light these sets look cheap as hell. This looks like something. I mean, I thought Hercules' Legendary Journey had better budget than this show. Okay, you got House of the Dragon going on right now. Similarly priced. I think that House of Dragon has $10 million more or something like that. That show is leaps and bounds ahead of this. This looks like it's got $100 million more spent on it. You have Godzilla -1, who had a minuscule amount of the budget and looks fantastic. So what the hell happened here? Where did all that money go? I know that has gotten some conspiracy theories about somebody taking money. So, getting into episode 6, we were talking about it. So supposedly Osha likes Jackie, and this guy kills Jackie, right? So she sees him nude, and suddenly she has no fight. She's like, oh yeah, Jackie, nobody. Talks about it for half a second. He's like, nothing. She's nothing burger. She has nothing at all to say to this guy that killed someone she was supposedly interested in. Seems like there should be something there. Some kind of emoting. In fact, this is the episode where Amandla actually emotes, and it's very jarring. Not for the reasons it should be. It's jarring because, first off, you never see her do anything. Emoting, that is. Comes across like an actor who wants to hit the mark. It doesn't look like she's trying to convey emotion. It's pretty bad. Also in this episode, you have the Jedi spacecraft breaks twice for no real reason. Oh, because the plot wants it to. And apparently, first it's communications and then it's power all entirely. Which leads to a really stupid moment where May gets a money shot in the eye. I think that was supposed to be funny, I'm not sure. But really the big one on this episode was the Jedi leave the planet right as the other Jedi come in. It is like something out of a fucking Looney Tunes cartoon. It was ridiculous.
I dropped my hot pocket.
It just like, what the hell? And you get the laser whip, get the light whip, and it just looks ridiculous on screen. I should have never went with that. There was literally no reason for these people to be on this planet, so yeah, okay. But still, she sees the guy nude, flips her allegiance, and barely even acknowledges Jackie's feelings, her feelings for Jackie at all. It's like, yeah, okay. But then we get to episode 7, so yeah, we're getting into why Torben killed himself. And why? Because he wanted to go home. He literally hops on a speeder, drives up to the compound, and like from there on does nothing. He literally does nothing. I mean, there's nothing here that makes you feel guilty for. And of course, this is also the episode where Mother Anesthesia decides she wants to turn into the smoke monster from Lost. And, well, gee, gets killed. Your girlfriend's there threatening a fight. Then you turn into a smoke monster. And the other kid starts to dissipate as well. When asked about this, Leslie Headland said, I think she was merging with the Force. You think? I mean, could you get a little bit more?
Non-canon canon is the best kind of canon.
I mean, basically, Leslie says she has no clue what it is, and she wrote the damn thing. That tells you all you need to know. But also, there's a threat made, and then Torben says, my mind is fortified. So then they go take over the Wookiee. Why is the Wookiee's mind not fortified? If a Padawan can do it, why the hell can't a Jedi Knight or Master? I don't know which rank he had at this time. It's not made clear. Because all he really does throughout this episode is use a metal detector to look for something. And it looks really bad. Now, some people point out, oh yeah, but the original lightsabers were like light handles, and like, yeah, but you can tell they were. This looked like something new. This looks like an old school metal detector. Anyway, this episode is pointless because we go on to the final episode. To which, why did Sol return to the planet when he just missed the Jedi at the other planet? We're not given a reason. May says, see you in hell, dryly. And then, to invoke Han Solo's very dramatic use of that phrase. I mean, seriously, it just you play the two back to back. It's like, wow, that's a difference. Talk about not getting it. And then Osha decides, I'm gonna bleed a crystal. Now, again, people going on about canon.
Non-canon canon is the best kind of canon.
It was a cannon.
It was definitely a cannon.
But I believe we're gonna have to get medieval on your buttocks.
Both Darth Vader comic and Jedi Survivor games have gotten into this bleeding crystal. I don't like it, by the way. I preferred it when it was synthetic crystal. But, for whatever reason, they decided not to do that and got into this bleeding thing. Okay. When it happens, it releases a tremendous amount of energy. Not reflected here. So, for everyone who has thought that that Disney is not broke canon, they just broke canon. Their own. Fuck off.
My high school softball coach was a deaf lesbian.
Then, of course, Jedi Master nepotism blames Saul for all the Jedis dying, which leaves an actual plot hole. Many Jedi saw the hologram of May killing Trinity. Many Jedi are aware of this assassin, but yet she still blames Saul.
And one day I started to think, and they fired me.
You got the Badger running around. He knows everything. Then we have Yoda at the end, which really messes this whole thing up. Because at this point, Yoda's either complicit or stupid. Yoda ain't stupid. That's the only way to resolve that. Because Yoda is that damn good. Now the other thing is, sadly, this makes the Jedi Council look stupid because you got to think about something. Jedis hid this from the Council. Then the Senate got a hold of it. So basically the Jedi Council is the last people to hear about all this shit, according to how we're presented the information. That's not good. That doesn't... I mean, that is a major faux pas in the whole of the Jedi Order. How could the Senate know if the Jedi Council don't? That's what I'm getting at. So now the Jedi Council looks dumb. And no one understands why we don't like this shit. Now, you can be an ardent defender of this sack of crap. But no, it's bad. It's incredibly bad. And I wanted to celebrate like Saul, the actor who plays Saul, actually learned English. Then I read a thing that says, no, he did not completely learn English. He always has an interpreter with him in interviews. He was fed his lines and delivered them. A guy who doesn't even speak English as a first language delivered his lines better and with more conviction, for the most part, than most of the English-speaking actors that were present. It's mind-boggling to me, but also is a testament to his talent. He was, for a bit, the only character I liked until that very final bit. And actually, that makes sense, because an actor who knew their character was going to go to hit that probably would have said something and said, hey, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure the lady turned into a smoke monster. That's what you told me on set. I'm not down with this. My character looks stupid for not mentioning this fact. But no, we don't. But the funniest thing is that if you watch Leslie in interviews, comes across as really not knowing what she's talking about. I mean, listen to this response when she's asked the motivation of her bad guy. This was after episode 5 in the reveal.
Absolutely, yeah. He always had to feel like he was operating from a place that, I think what you're saying, it had to be clear that his character was always operating from, I want to say a human place, although that's a strange word to use in Star Wars, but for the sake of the answer, from a human place, meaning that as a human audience member, you would be able to follow and relate with, maybe not the murder, but you could definitely relate with what he's saying.
I mean, seriously, she struggled with that question. I mean, she wrote the damn thing. She should know exactly who this guy is and what he's about. But when asked, that's your response. And it doesn't help when our actors make little flubs like Yord over here.
You can't look and see that Anakin blowing up the Death Star possibly killed millions and millions of people. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this.
And the thing is, that isn't everything. I could go on for a long, long time and break down the things about this. This is one of the worst things I've seen since Dial of Destiny, and that was horrible.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next products.
That was so bad. And I never did a video on that because Michael French did the greatest video of all time on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and we'll leave it at that. And yeah, that video does go over the runtime of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And you know what's really sad about it? It's actually more entertaining. I'm sure they're going to try other stuff, but for me, stick with the OT. I watch these things as they come about. If I like it, great. If I don't, who cares?
I'd say pretend for a watch through that it's what you wanted and see how you feel. Call me in the morning.
But this was bad. This gave new meaning to bad. This is just one of the worst things I've seen in a while. And it's amazing to watch people try to infer a bunch of stuff into this that simply was not there. It's just not being presented to the audience. The whys they do it, I don't know. But they're doing it. And it's like, what the hell show are you watching? Because it's not the one I watch. And everything around this show has just been terrible. This is really, I mean, I mildly disliked Disney Star Wars before this. I mean, I'd watch it and be like, well, there's a redeemable quality. There's no redeemable qualities in the show whatsoever. Not one thing. My one hope in the whole series was Saul, and he ended up, yeah, it's just like, he just ended up getting written terribly and dumped. Again, this has been talked to death. It's been looked over, but when you put this whole package together, my God, what the hell happened? And no, I'm not blaming the people doing the criticizing, because I'm one of them. And whether you agree with me or not, You can't sit here and tell me this show had quality moments all the way through.
The power of one. No. 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 Power of two.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
The power of many.
This show was a dumpster fire. Maybe you don't believe that. But at the same time, there's not much here to defend. You can try, but, you know, you don't have the late, great Ray Stevenson in this one to look at and go, yeah, that was pretty good. You don't have that episode 6 fight between Vader and Obi-Wan. Yeah, question marks on why Obi-Wan walked away. Well, it's kind of cool. You don't have that prison break scene that really made Andor kind of exciting. It took forever to get there, but whoa, the payoff was worth it. Yeah, I mean, you can argue that 5th episode fight scene, but not really. It's just okay. It's not even okay. It's like, what the hell did I just watch? And why the hell are people who are watching it not seeing what I'm seeing? I don't know. I do know this. It's just freaking terrible. It should never see the light of day again. If that's what you're going to deliver us for Star Wars, maybe it's time to stop watching Star Wars. Oh wait, I can go back and watch the old original trilogy still. You can't take that away from me. Too bad. That'll wrap up this look at the Acolyte, as bad as it was. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.